Welcome, and thanks for joining me for round 2, race 6 of Zwift Racing League. We're in Division B2. It's the last one, scratch race, and we're taking on 3 little climbs. That's in Welsh. I'm not going to try it. We are looking at the race here, starting in the Watopia Pens, going through the tunnel. First one is the Epic KOM bypass, down the hill and around, through the S-curves, through the reverse bypass, and then second part of the Zwift KOM to then come through the volcano, around through the city again, and into Titan's Grove, where we finish on the reverse KOM. Here we are in the Pens. I'm going to speed things up a bit. There's a lot of stuff in between. Start wasn't too hot. Thankfully, folks knew what was waiting for them, and pack stayed relatively together. Some banter going on with Bradford, who jumped last minute into another dirt team ambush. We were trying to get him to come in, but he decided to go race for ambush, and one of our other teammates who wasn't racing tonight was watching his stream, hence the comment, Noodle. So Bradford and Noodle, traders for shame. Just kidding. We're coming out of the tunnel here and about to go up the Epic KOM bypass. Slow it down ever so slightly so you can get a better sense of the effort that's needed here. We're gonna go up this kind of double S curve. Some pretty steep percentages here. The grade kicks up to 8-9%, as you can see on the screen, with a last little kick sort of on the second S that I think does hit 10. Some pretty good efforts here. I think I did my best 5 minutes in a while. It's been a while since I've been able to do something decent at 5 minutes. I think I finished with something like 350 or thereabouts for 5 minutes. Here's that 10% kick right there. And this is the moment that I usually get dropped. So after putting in that full effort, there's this 3% drag that seems to go on forever. So it just doesn't stop. It doesn't let up. And I am hurting. My heart rate's at about 185, 186 here. I peaked at 189. This one here, I almost get dropped. Little gap. Thankfully, this green guy, Locust, comes through, and I think I pick up a bit of his draft and get a little bit of motivation to jump in there and make it to this front group. Now, I'm under no illusions. I think the downhill on the back end is fast enough that even though we've got a 10-second gap on the larger group behind us, we'll eventually get caught. Now, this little kicker hurts. 7% after dragging it out for 4 or so minutes. It's just that last little bit. And there's me taking a nice deep breath, coordinating with teammates. So Dan and I made that front cut. We had 2 or 3 teammates in the group behind us, and there were 2 UV guys kind of up the road, and we were in a pack with 3 UV guys. So we needed to beat them tonight in order to stay top of the table and take the league. So we were really focused on making sure that we finished ahead of them. So at this point, we've got something like 10 or 12 seconds on the group behind us. And, folks are trying to push the front here, but the smart thing for us to do is to wait for some teammates and get some reinforcements. So Dan and I try to just slow it a little bit to make sure that we can kind of link the 2 groups. You can see their bottom right corner. There's 15 seconds to the group behind us, and like I said, just wanting to keep things together. Now I feel pretty good at this point. I've recovered. My heart rate has come down significantly. I'm 145, which is pretty low for me in a race. I am sitting at 160, 170 watts, which explains it. Unlike last week, where I couldn't get my heart rate down. So there goes Madruga at about is 11.5 kilometers to go. This guy was on the front for most of the race. That was the moment, I think, where he decided to take off. Now, if you just noticed, the rest of the pack just swallowed us up. So they put 15 seconds in us relatively quickly on that downhill. And we're back to 30 or so in this group. Madruga is up front. He's slowly gaining on us, putting in some time on us. So you can see there Dan trying to stretch the pack and not let him get too far away. Some banter about who Madruga is. Bradford trying to get some views there. And here we are in the Italian Villa. We're going to take a right into the sprint. We got our first power up here in about a second or two, which is going to be I believe the feather, since we're going to be taking on kind of a double hit. The first part of the Zwift KOM reverse, which is the 10-12% kick, and then we take the bypass into the second part of the forward KOM, which I've never done that combination before. So my strategy here was to hold my feather if I could and deploy it on the second part to really kind of put the hurt locker on the guys who are hurting. So here's where it pitches up about 7, 8, 9, 10%. Doing 500 watts there to stay with the group. And just to make it down to the arch, we're taking a left-hander here. Little rest. Try to get my heart rate down. I'm sitting at 185, which is kind of high. Surprisingly, I've been a little bit off the bike lately, so it's been peaking. So here's that second part of the KOM. Used my feather, perfect position, and come through here in the middle of the pack. At this point, Madruga is still putting time on us, which is pretty impressive because we hit the back end of that forward KOM pretty hard. A little bit of recovery coming downhill. We got an anvil at the banner, which is an interesting power up, but I'm not sure it really did anything because everyone kind of used it at the same place. So some guys just used it there on that first downhill, but the majority of us waited until this upcoming downhill. Now, I ended up using mine too early, so this was too early. As you can see, everyone's going to just blow past me right there, and I have to put in a bit of a dig just to stay connected. So a bit of a learning moment there for me. Fast forward a bit to getting through town. We just got a feather power up. There wasn't really much that happened. We went through the S curves and then back into the pier. And now we're heading 6 or so kilometers to go back towards Titans Grove, and we're going to make a left-hand turn here. And you can see the bottom right of the mini map. It basically just climbs from here on out. So there's always going to be some sort of incline going forward, no matter what. 1, 2, 3%. There isn't anything flat. We're going to make a right-hand turn coming up into the Titans Grove Forest to start with the rollers leading into the Titans Grove reverse. There it is. Here I'm not paying attention. I'm trying to sort out my music, and I almost get dropped coming up in a little bit, which forces me to have to pay attention a little bit better to make sure that I don't have to work harder than I do otherwise. So the trick with these rollers is to kind of give it a couple kicks. You'll see that my wattage goes up just at the bottom of the downhill, and then you carry your speed up the incline a little bit. There, that's almost where I get dropped there. That way you're not forcing your watts when you're midway through the climb. So it's important in these sort of rollers and then the S's in the game. There's always a bit of a lag. So if you time it so that you give it a couple pedal strokes on the downhill, you know, your speed's going to carry up the hill, and you don't have to work as hard because you just spin high and you give your legs a little bit of a break. So just over 2 kilometers to go. People are getting antsy. As you can see, Madruga's still on the front. I think at this point he had somewhere like a 20 or 30 second lead. I'm not exactly sure. You can tell by the little chart up on the left hand side, my Weebles are kind of hovering in the mid pack. Like I said, my FTP's dropped quite a bit in the last few months just because I haven't been training super hard. Coming into this race, I was at about 280 or so. And so my Weebles will reflect the effort that I'm putting in. And with 1.5 kilometers to go, my heart rate's a bit high, so I'm a little bit concerned. And I know that I've got a big kind of 2-minute effort coming up. So trying here to just conserve and slow it down a little bit just so you can see what the actual effort looks like. It feels like we're in slow motion, but this is actual real-time speed. I managed to get my heart rate down to 175 in those few seconds. So I went from 180 something to 175, which is pretty impressive for me. My heart rate usually doesn't drop that quickly, but it's still kind of high going into a final effort at 175. Now, this is a segment I've done a bunch of times, and I used to like it a lot. I've done it a bunch, and I can kind of time it really well. The first part of this, we didn't really hit it too hard because it's a scratch race, and my best times I've done in points races. You can see these guys going off the front a little too early. There's 700 meters to go. That's an effort to stick 700 meters. Everyone's kind of gaining on Madruga at this point. But there's 2 or 3 guys who kind of go off the front. My plan was to sit in wheels until about 300 meters and then smash it. And here I am at 500. And in hindsight, I think I should have jumped onto that Z-Sun wheel right there in front of us. And gone a little earlier, maybe here, but who knows? It's all good. So there you can see on the mini map on the right hand side, folks are starting to really go. I deploy my feather and just go as hard as I can. Pass a few people. Bradford put in a really good dig up until this point, and I managed to catch him and surprisingly catch the Locust guy who took off with 700 meters to go to secure third place. So pretty happy with that. You know, podium for me. I'm pretty happy with the watt effort. If you see there, 3.4 for the whole race compared to some of the others. Final results, unfortunately, UV Breakaway took the win with 275 points. I finished with 56 points and 6 bonus points. Ken and Dan with 51 and 42, respectively. From a team perspective, great finish, but the UV guys were just too strong. Kudos to them. Look at that. 41, 46, 47, 59, 65. That's hard to contend with. Here we are. Our finish points, 921 to 894. League points are the same. The tiebreaker goes to finishing points. Thanks for watching. See you soon.